Chapter 27. In school the next day, Mrs. Douglas gave us back our stories. I stared at mine, lying upside down on my desk. Please read my comments, Mrs. Douglas said. I took a lot of time writing them. I've also graded your stories. A hand shot up. Did anyone get an A? Yes, of course, Mrs. Douglas said. Well, did anyone get a C? Stop fishing, Dillian, Mrs. Douglas said. All around me, my classmates started turning their stories around. I looked over at Lupe and watched as she turned hers over and a small smile escaped on her lips. I looked down on my own story with a deep breath. I turned it around. There, plastered in red ink on the very top of my essay was a big, fat C-. 12. That's the number of exclamation marks my teacher used to describe how bad my writing was. Check your grammar. Tenses, Mia. Don't forget tenses. You need to proofread. The little minus sign on the top of the page winked at me, reminding me that C wasn't bad enough. It had to be C-. I stared at the red marks all over my story. A hot, bloody mess. In every sentence, there was something circled or crossed out. Why couldn't I ever get the tenses right? I could hear my mom's voice in my head shouting, because there are no tenses in Chinese. My mother was right. How could I possibly be as good as other kids in their language? I should just forget about the essay contest. Who was I kidding? I didn't stand a chance. If I entered, it would just be 300 down the toilet. I stared at my classmates, drinking in their glee as they proudly waved their stories around. I couldn't stop looking at them, showing off their grades, grinning from year to year. I envied them with every bone in my body. When at last the school bell rang, I skulked home. My legs like jello, my feet cement blocks. The word, "You are never getting off your roller coaster," played in my head like a news ticker. I stashed my C- story deep in my closet when I got home. Along with the essay contest printout I had been saving. I thought if I hid it, I wouldn't have to ever think about it again. But that afternoon, the cable was acting up again and Lupe came over. So, what'd you get on your story? Lupe asked. I shook my head at her. You don't want to know. I mumbled. She shrugged. Oh, come on. It can't be that bad, she said. I didn't say anything. Who cares? It's just a grade, Lupe said. You should have seen my grade when I first started going to school here. But it wasn't just a grade. It meant I was no good at writing. And how was I supposed to win a motel if I wasn't any good at writing? Before I could help it, everything came pouring out. Lupe's eyes bulged when she heard about the essay contest. For a second, I worried I had made a terrible mistake telling her. What if she applied for it herself? But then she reached over, took one of the guest comment cards, and scribbled something down. She handed me the card. I looked down at it. It said, "You can't win if you don't play." I looked back up at Lupe. But it costs $300 to play, I reminded her. Lupe shrugged. My dad says, in America, you gotta pay to play, she said. I looked out the window at her dad, up on the roof, climbing down with all those thick wires around his shoulder. Suddenly, Lupe got quiet. What's wrong? I asked her. Nothing, she said. I knew it wasn't nothing. So I asked her again. I'll be sad if you move away to Vermont, she whispered. This almost knocked me over. It hadn't even occurred to me how she might feel if I won. She had to know that there was no chance I'd win. I just got a C-, remember? I thought this would make her laugh, but it didn't. Lupe just kept staring at the floor. She didn't even look up when her dad came in and told her it was time to go. See you tomorrow, I said. See ya, Lupe muttered. As she pushed open the front office door, she turned and said, Oh, and Mia? Yes, I hope you win. Her words warmed me to my toes.